G'day friends and fans, welcome to Dave Talks Stuff Ukraine War Update for the 2nd of December 2025. The Ukraine war rages on. Ukraine military is reported to be in a precarious situation. Russia has overrun several positions. I cannot confirm or deny, but at least 2 towns have fallen. Pokrovsk, the Russians have increased their control of the town. They are claiming victory, but they are still cleaning up mines, weapon caches, and processing survivors. They're probably going to be at least another week before we can tell what Ukraine is going to do, but it looks like Ukraine has began a withdrawal from the area and setting up new lines of defense. Well, falling back to second lines of defense further back. But the news is not good. However, peace talks continue. So the pressure on Zelensky's on because the more territory he loses, the harder it gets for him because he is adamant that Ukraine's sovereignty is not to be compromised. This is stalling the end of the war. It is clear that no matter what I say, the majority seems to the majority seems to be silent while the vocal minority scream Putin puppet left, right and centre. The reality on the ground is, folks, none of these people screaming Putin puppet are fighting this war. They are not putting their lives on the line. They have no right to demand that others die for their hatred of Russia and Vladimir Putin. You hate Russia so much, yet you bark from the sidelines. Why bark at me? I'm just bringing you the news. I'm telling you as it is. Not what you want to hear. I know. But so many of you have at least, hundreds of you have at least come for the truth. Although not many on YouTube. YouTube seems to have the worst audience of them all, where most of the people on YouTube just don't want to know. They tune out very quickly. They don't want to know. They want comfortable lies. But the comfortable lie cannot last. The Russians have hit several areas in the north. Now, Sumy and Kharkiv, there was a glide bomb somewhere near Kharkiv. This is a supply route. Most likely a gathering of Ukrainian vehicles, though that has not been confirmed. There's been drone strikes. Though amongst the drone strikes and missiles, there are areas where Ukraine has held off the Russians. Now, the temperature is near zero. Fighting is very sporadic in some areas, but as we go further south, it does slightly warm up. By warm up, I mean it goes from absolutely freezing to just absolutely freezing, like fraction, like 1 degree Fahrenheit per 1, 2, 3 zones down. So that is very cold indeed to be near zero for that long and outdoors. But outdoors they must, and outdoors they continue, with the Russians making no advances yet, multiple attacks. However, they are still holding parts of Seversk. They are making some advances, but not many. Now, only slight advances in Kursk, and again, lots of fighting, but no duration. A lot of these, according to some of the Russian Ministry of Defense reports, some of these points of contact are lasting less than an hour. They are sporadic fighting. They've actually written the word sporadic in some of the reports. Now, they put out something like hundreds of minor reports on their Telegram channel, mostly in Russian, some in English. Most of the English ones are just a couple of lines, fighting in Mirogod, and then an hour later it's fighting in Bastani. And, these are not all simultaneous battles. There are, however, reports of clashes with remaining forces. That there's still buildings being cleared on the outskirts of Pokrovsk, though this says in it's on the road into Pokrovsk. There's this little area here where the Ukrainian forces have remained, but there's also remaining forces here, and the Russians haven't closed the gap, nor have they cut off completely this here. They are fighting up this line to cut this off completely. There's a base up here south of, like I said, the Ukrainians moved 10,000 troops in some time ago. They made no secret of it. Russia published it. Ukraine has been trying to devise a Pokrovsk rescue plan, but Zelensky has allegedly said that the Ukrainians are in a precarious position right now because the Russians have broken through their lines here in the west. Now, the Russians are still making slow advances here, pushing the Ukrainians. They're clearing out small bunkers day by day, mostly with drones. They are fighting troops here in the settlement. They are slowly pushing through here. Again, it's mostly clearing out bunkers in the countryside, though there is fighting at the towns. Now there's fighting here. The Ukrainian lines have buckled but not broken, but in some places the Russians have overrun the Ukrainians, and in others they are now just settling in for a stosh with some sporadic assaults and shelling of central Hilopol. But the Russians ensnared the Ukrainians here, allegedly coming down the road, completely flanking them, though they were stopped at Vanibelia on their way south. Now, why are they heading west than south? Is because of this river here. They're clearing the banks. They're clearing the Ukrainians and setting up to basically block supply lines by clearing this road of mines, etc. So they can basically come in and set up all along here and just pretty much just go right through and could set up all the way through here. At the same time, they pressure the Ukrainians. They've cut the road here, which pressures them to go overland. They have not completely cut the road. They are fighting their way up and through, but the secondary forces are also failing to move up and secure the flanks and rear positions, though they have secured some at Orlisk, and they have shelled Ukrainian positions here. Drones and missiles, of course, continue to hit the major supply depots. They've hit what did they hit at Moilov? Ah, yes, the port. And I think they keep reporting that sunflower oil turns out it wasn't. Turns out this is sunflower oil, not crude oil. So Ukraine attacked civilian shipping carrying sunflower oil. But of course, Zelensky claims everything's a legitimate target, but when Russia attacks them, it's, oh no, we're the victims, everybody! This is the problem when you enter into politics. People will always lie, people will always take a side, people will always, the left will always love their oppressor narrative. They always engage in low IQ arguments, name-calling, ridicule. They just cannot accept the truth. They cannot be told. Now, the US have told off Belgium over interfering in the affairs of the United States, telling them that Ukraine surrender is the easy way to end this war, or you're just going to, what are you going to do? you're going to just sit there and watch Ukraine die and then go, oh, well, we put up a good fight. So you're going to lose more land so you can see more people die. This is the problem. Those who always ask for sacrifice, greater and greater sacrifices, are not sacrificing themselves. Deb from Minnesota. Bet you don't go to war, bud, honey, or send your kids. Bet you'd be out there protesting. Hey, she calls herself the Peace Grandma, by the way, on X, It's like, whoa, Peace Grandma with the Ukraine flag going, kill Putin. Can you imagine if Putin was walking around saying kill Trump? Well, actually, Deb would probably go, yay! Oh, wait a minute. But he's Putin puppet. Oh, he's disappointed Putin. All the cope the left come up with, okay? They never base anything on fact. They have nothing but immature speculation and fear, paranoia, fear-mongering. But never underestimate anybody. You don't know their motives. We can only estimate. And calling somebody a bad guy, too bad, so sad, it's not your problem. And if you keep thinking, but you would stop, you wouldn't fight Hitler. Hitler, you're so fascinated. Yet at the same time, you're so paranoid about, oh, we're going to stop Hitler. But you never talk about stopping Stalin. You never talk about stopping Pol Pot. You never stopped anything in your life, okay? You are screaming at the sky when you're talking about Hitler because he's long dead. You're just barking for the sake of barking. You don't know anything about World War II, okay? And, yes, Hitler was given a red line and he crossed it. So far, Putin hasn't crossed the red line. He hasn't used tactical nuclear weapons in Ukraine or against anybody else. He actually has not attacked deliberately anybody else. Okay? He has limited this war. He made all the notifications. He gave you weeks to come up with a counter-proposal back in 2022, but so many on the left ignore all the facts. They like to cherry-pick. They don't even talk about the root causes of the Ukraine war. But however, that is the basis of the Russian demands. That they get to cede the territory back to them that they lost illegally under Khrushchev, the territory that Ukraine would not hand back, the territory that Ukraine the territory that Ukraine routinely abused for over a decade with illegal paramilitary organizations conducting extrajudicial killings of ethnic Russians in order to suppress them because they were voting against the illegal coup in Ukraine. When voting resumed, they resisted the coup. You don't want to call it a coup. You want to call it the revolution of dignity. The modern revolution of dignity. It's dignity. This is the child, that has, this is why most people shouldn't have the right to vote because they don't have a clue. Oh, yes, Obama's got nice shoes. I'll vote for him. He looks like a nice boy. He has all the right things to say. Oh, Biden, he's so experienced at corruption, at sleeping, spends a week on the beach. Crickets from the sidelines. Did Biden lift a finger on Ukraine? Did he lift a finger on the Epstein files? Did he lift a finger on anything? We're still waiting to find out. Even if he did, 80% of the documents weren't even signed by him. So, Russia claims it's close to Pokrovsk, even though there is still a little bit of fighting on the outskirts. The main town has actually fallen, but there is the outskirts and key areas around it where, now the Russian Chief of Staff, Valery Gerasimov, said the eastern city of Vashutek has also been captured. He reports these, of course, as liberation, Pokrovsk was a major transportation hub, one of the 4 in the region, and is one of them that in eastern Ukraine that Russia has claimed to annex. The town that once had 60,000 people was heavily bombarded by drones, military and artillery, not weeks, months. But Ukraine, of course, has yet to confirm, but Ukraine often takes over a week before confirming. But often what we have is Ukraine is trying to see if they can mount a counterattack. There are areas of resistance out on the outskirts, and there is, as you can see, artillery drills and exchanges. This being a 153 artillery. As you can see, it is a beast of a weapon, and it is firing at long range from positions well back from Pokrovsk. So there is still, as we go to the map, there's Pokrovsk there. As you can see, where's the green areas? Okay, well, probably around here, firing up here, or they're out here, firing into here, or they're trying to... Now, this is weird because this was marked off by Russians. There has been no report of a Ukrainian counterattack or anything, so I think this is just the way the map is drawn. But there is Ukrainian trying to come down this road, and as you see, there's fighting here, and there's fighting here. There's clearing of the road, fighting at Ravine. And of course, fighting up here, and of course, the artillery can be back here. You know, it has at least, a couple of, no worries for 153. So moving on from that, we have the war of words over Russian money to support Kiev's war. The freezing of assets was illegal, according to Peskov, though the European Court doesn't want to hear it. They want to take the money and support Kiev's war machine. Indian has protested and said that there will be financial repercussions if they go ahead. The Europeans want to steal more than $200 billion off Russia to support Kiev's war machine. Actually, they only want to give them 143 of that. The rest will go on. Processing fees. Don't you love those processing fees? Going to be a lot of... Ursula von der Leyen's going to have a lot of new furniture and new clothes, right? But Moscow has, of course, been... Yesterday, the media and a lot of YouTubers reported that Russia threatened Europe. Well, if you read the story in the Financial Times, it was actually NATO threatening a preemptive strike. French aircraft were going to strike Russian forces in Ukraine to stop their advance in Western Ukraine. They were considering sending French jets, allegedly with Ukrainian pilots. And, of course, Moscow said that this was a NATO preemptive strike disguised as this was interventionism disguised as military assistance, and that indeed if NATO pilots took a strike against Russia or Russian forces in Ukraine, or so-called preemptive strike, that they would see it was an escalation of the conflict and would seek remedy against European aggression. They have said that often that it will consider defensive actions, but I have asked Europe to deter from engaging in anti-Russian hysteria, but of course asking immature grots to act like adults is impossible. Liberals are irredeemable by the looks of it. Many just love to scream their 2 minutes of hate every day. But, unfortunately, this is rising the escalation. But more and more Gen Xs and Gen Zs, Gen Ys, and even some millennials are realizing that these boomers want to send you to die so they can have free healthcare, because killing off the young means they don't have to feed you, supply you, etc., etc., and they can spend more on themselves. That's absolutely selfishness of society today. The absolute degenerate, the inconsiderate, selfish nature of degenerates. They only care about themselves. They bark at anything that threatens their power. And of course they engage in social manipulation, passive-aggressive tactics, because so many people out there go, that's a jolly good insult, yes, orange man bad, without even thinking, why is the orange man bad? Well, he killed a drug boat. Oh, naughty, you cut off our drugs, because, this is all they care about. They're selfish, right? They don't care about the kids dying. They don't care about anything. They think, legalise all drugs. That'll stop the deaths. That won't. Just more healthcare. Throw money at it. Just print more money. Give me. They always think in childish terms. They always think more is better. Really? We've spent more on healthcare. It's declined. We've spent more on education. It's declined. We've spent more on the military more than ever. And yet, under Obama and Biden, the military declined despite excessive spending. Because most of the money just goes on the bureaucracy, not the front line. This is always, every election you hear the promised frontline services. And then nothing happens. And then next election, frontline services. Yet time and time again, you keep voting blue, yet they screw you. You can't keep blaming Republicans when the Republicans have no power in half of America. It's like Germany's blaming the Alternative for Deutschland for their economic woes, and it's like, they have no power. You have all the power, right? You have all the power and you're failing. And it's glorious to watch your childish tantrums. And the ECB, well, they actually took a principled stand. They realised that if they take Russia's money, there goes the Indian, there goes all the 2/3 of all the investments in the world. India, China, Saudi Arabia, 12 investment funds will withdraw from European banks. Start trading in other currencies. I know the Chinese there are actually starting to trade in rubles now. They're moving away from euros because of the threat of freezing assets. China is, and of course, China, I'm not saying that Chinese haven't deserved, but you actually have to have proper laws. You can't, you need national security and stuff like that. But, the Europeans have painted themselves into a corner with this ideas of free trade and unlimited free speech for the left, while no speech for the right. This is the hypocrisy of the two-tier system in UK, parts of Europe. You have riots in France, which they don't want to talk about. Europe is crumbling, and yet all they want to do is play the fiddle like Nero as Rome burns. The Italians are in deep doo-doo, and they don't want to do anything about it. So be it, let them die off. This selfishness in Europe is undeniable now. That the vast majority of Europeans are selfish, and they're going to their graves without children just so they can thumb your nose at Hitler. It's like, you're an absolute idiot. And you deserve to be extinct. Because when you're gone, nobody will care. Nobody will care. You haven't stopped Hitler. You didn't stop Pol Pot. You didn't stop Maduro. You didn't stop the massacre in the killing fields of Rwanda. You stopped nothing. Okay? You posted a couple of YouTube posts. You posted on X and Blue Sky. You screamed at the sky. And what have you achieved? Nothing but cutting off your own family line. You bloody genius. You're a genius. But no, you say the brown people, they're impressed that the world are going to be free. They are the oppressors. You're just too selfish to even be told the truth. You think Jesus was black. You think Egyptians were black. You think Christians went around Egypt breaking all the noses on statues to hide that they were Africans. You think Cleopatra was black. You think Netflix is the best thing ever, bestest ever. You know, oh, you will own nothing. You will eat your bugs. This is nobody is going to mourn you, okay? This is why most people don't go visit their grandparents, because they look at them and go, you fucked everything up. You raised millennials and look how they turned out. Millennials are both the richest and poorest at the same time, because though a handful of millennials make a lot of money, like Mr. Beast, etc., for every Mr. Beast, there are 10,000 who don't even have 1,000 subscribers. You know, there are far better people out there who don't even get the time of day. The algorithms are all manipulated. All the politics, people are talking about how their vote don't matter. Well, yeah, people are losing hope and faith, because the voices who are out there trying to uplift people are not getting traction, because everybody wants to be miserable, depressed and angry and screaming at their screen, right? This is the toxicity of social media. I may not have all the answers, but it's far better than sitting there watching Mr. Beast drone on all day about bullshit, or Hassan Piker drone all day about American deserved 9/11, or all these pro-Ukrainian channels talking about what a wonderful God Zelensky is. It's insane. But that is the problem in the world, where people want comfortable lives. The right has to lift its game. You see, the left has turned into uncomfortable skulls. We have to become the voice of reason, the voice of hope, the voice of the future. And as Gen X passes into the old age zone, goodbye boomers, hopefully we can at least pass on some reasonable wisdom, because at least Gen Z seems open-minded to actually listen some of the time. And that's more than I can say about millennials, who walk around with their fingers in the air, like Pac-Man, who just spout like, or David Hogg, or most of them, although Mark Kelly's a useless boomer screaming, I'm a vet, so believe me. They talk about Trump's, Trump this, Trump that. Don't see Mark Kelly trying to end the war. He wants to send more arms. He wants to send more kids to die. Put hair on your chest. And I served for 20 years. I got shot at. It'll do you good, son, to go to war. That sort of mentality is how we ended up with war after war after war, and half the American population dead, and you don't see it, you don't feel it, because of immigration. Immigration was all to make you feel comfortable that nothing was dead or dying or failing. But eventually you ran out of rich migrants, and now you're down to the commies. And the scumbags in Minnesota stole money. The scumbags in Ukraine who stole money. It's all coming. Revelations, my friends, is not the world changing. Okay? Revelations is revealing the world as it is. The truth about the world. You cannot heal until you face reality. You face the truth. Whether it's trans, gay. Now, I'm not a moral man. I don't preach absolute morality. I think a little bit of sin keeps the balance. It stops us from going crazy. It allows us to know that we still have free will. Okay? But I'm talking about forced immorality, like lying about drugs, lying about alcohol, lying about smoking. They lie. It's amazing, all these people who run around saying, oh, big tobacco, yet the drug cartels earn way more money and kill way more people than tobacco ever did. This is the problem. Hippies are not good people. They are selfish, just like alcoholics, just like any addict. But the worst of the worst are the money-grubbing actors and actresses in Hollywood who are bleeding you dry so they can live exorbitant lifestyles, play pretend all day, and waste billions of dollars a month on their pretentious snobbery. And the studios are going to collapse and be replaced by AI. And the studios are letting it happen. They're deliberately running Disney into the ground so they can replace it with... So Disney can be closed, broken up and sold to Saudi Arabia, and then come back as some AI-led studio. But, they were trying to sell it to Legendary at one point. So, folks, the Ukraine war, I know, I've gone way off target, but the Ukraine war is a distraction. And I'm trying to elevate you to a higher level of understanding so that you can make informed decisions every day to never, ever, ever support the left, to learn that the only way to get rid of bad Republicans is to get involved in primaries, to spread the word, spread the message, and it's the same whether it's in America, Australia, Europe, the only way to get rid of bad politicians is to confront them every day. And eventually people will get out of their fugue state of walking around, staring at their toes, and realise cut the left out of your life and start elevating the right. Oh yeah, I forgot to reset this when I re-recorded. I've had crashes today while trying to record. Thank you all for watching. I really appreciate it. You can support me on Ko-Fi, Patreon, buy my books, buy my merch. All my links are in the link tree, description below, in my profile, or scan the QR code on the screen. Really appreciate each and every one of you. See you in the next video, and bye for now.